Hello and good morning. I was thinking about this thing. Well, this is something I think I've talked about before, at least skirted the edges of, but I figured I would get it all out of the way in one massively psychedelic rant. Um, Now, this is going to be a little bit out there, maybe a little bit of a crackpot theory. There's this idea of, or a question I had. What is it that human perception would be oriented towards the most? Because we tend to think of certain things as being very real, while other things are comparatively abstract or ephemeral, immaterial might be the best way to say it, right? We tend to think of things in that terms. So there's these things over here that are very real, but then there's other things that are not so real. And I'm not sure if that distinction is perhaps warranted. So the idea would be that, in my mind, I think intuitively at least, human perception would be oriented most towards the things that are comparatively malleable, right? The most stimulating realities, the things that change the most, and the things that intrude themselves into our existence and become a threat or a problem to us, right? Those would be the things which we would focus on the most. Those are the things which the most of our attention would be taken up with dealing, right? So, comparatively, inversely, whatever, things that are fundamental, things that are immalleable, reliable, are things which can be safely ignored. Which means, in theory, perceptions oriented towards those things would go comparatively unutilized. They are literally things you don't have to pay attention to them. You can ignore them all day, every day, and be safe, right? So, would not those perceptions inevitably become kind of comparatively atrophied, or maybe even non-existent? Would those perceptions, would our experience in that regard feel very abstract, almost unreal, or like it's a thing that's not even there? So again, like it feels like that maybe that distinction between these things over here are really real and these things over here are not so real. Like I don't know if that's the right way to look at things. It just I don't know. It feels like it almost turns it on its head. The things that feel the most real to us, in my mind, it seems like those are the things that are probably the most ephemeral, while inversely, the things that feel very abstract, very immaterial, it feels like that distinction would arise not so much because of the realness, the objective realness of the thing involved, but more so because certain perceptions are very utilized, are selected for in human evolution, if you will, while other things, either on a personal level or on an evolutionary level, have either been culled out of humanity or just go unutilized and therefore become atrophied. The things that are just abstract, immaterial, are probably the more fundamental of the two. I don't know if that makes them more real or not, but again, this one is a little bit out there, but with any luck, we'll never have to talk about it again. All right. Anyways, moving on, we have some stuff to look at. Video by Oompaville, The Disney Situation is Insane. And this is kind of late news because this is from a year ago, presumably perhaps even more than a year ago. They only update it, but I think when you get to the end of the year, they don't do months or whatever the crap. Oh, hold on. Yeah, August 21st to 2024. So near the end of 2024. Well, comparatively near the end. August is technically the 7th? Is it the 7th month? Anyways, yeah. Let's get into this.
Hi guys, my name's Caleb and this is the Disney Channel. This is the Disney Channel. We've got Victoria Justice, iCarly, all the other ones that were around.
I think I normally really watch. I don't know how much of Disney I would have actually watched growing up.
When I was young.
You do, like, there was some weird thing in Star Trek, and this is something you should know. because it's important. It's very important. I'm 90% sure the shenanigan thing is something they stole from The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. There's one of those where I think like Zack is about to graduate, and they use that line "shenanigan" because in the Star Trek, whatchamacallit, I did not watch it. It's the one where they're at college or whatever the crap. Star Trek, Starfleet Academy. I don't know. They use this stupid like they shenaned once, they'll shenan again. And I'm 90% sure they stole that from The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, or at least that I'm pretty sure would precede it. Just saying. I'm going to keep an eye on those suckers.
You consider yourself a paranoid person? Maybe you're
Only on days that end in Y.
worried about corporate America spying on you and acting as a lobbyist to sway your government to be able to spy on you more and extract more out of you, more stuff, more money.
Revenue of $23.16
That's a
billion.
lot of money.
It's also
That's a whole lot of money. I wish I had that much money.
Since May 2023.
I love that money. Are you?
To be fair, I don't know if Walt Disney is as popular as it once was. I think it's still pretty popular, but I feel like they're maybe not as much on the rise as at least they once were. I think it's got all the crap they put in their stuff. Yeah, this kind of another rant I want to go on. No, I guess this is the other one wasn't really a rant. This is the first rant of the day, first official rant of the day. It feels like the notion is that like tough love only really works when you first have the love. I'm willing to accept being lectured by someone I care about, right? If my parents or someone who has a good relationship with me comes down really hard and says, "Do you gotta stop doing blah 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 blah," I will at least listen to that. But the type of like ham-fisted, strict, don't do drugs, kids, that comes out in movies these days is quite insufferable, especially coming out of Hollywood, who really shouldn't be lecturing anyone about anything, in my humble estimation. They're kind of degenerates. But I do think there's, like, not that you should necessarily put messaging in films, but I do think if you do it, sorry, if it is done, it should be Socratic method or nothing at all. Seth MacFarlane in the Orville show, bear in mind, conservative Christian, he presents this all-male species, and to me that is is an all-male alien species, and to me that is an incredibly clever and intriguing way to discuss the notion of homosexuality or whatever like that. I don't know if it comes up a lot, but I thought that was really intriguing. Like, again, presenting an idea without telling people what to think about it, or saying that they're bad if they don't think the right way about thinking about that thing. It is, it feels like that's kind of the only way to go. I'm not saying, like, messaging otherwise will ruin a movie, but it will contribute to the enshittification of the movie. I tend to think it like narrows their margins for errors. If you're going to put something into the movie that annoys me, the movie has to be that much better for me to be like, yeah, okay, fine. And maybe not entirely, but it feels like that as a general rule, that tends to be the case. Because I guess I also think I would like to think I'm like super logical about liking movies or disliking movies. It's just this scale of things you like, things you don't like, and if the scale of things you don't like outweighs the things you do like, I think sometimes it literally just takes one thing that you really like. Well, you can understand that, no, this is not a worthwhile movie, it's kind of bad, but yeah, if there's one thing that really catches your eye, or really, I think quite often that's enough. All right, rant over.
Worried about corporations growing even larger and more evil, potentially? Maybe, if that's possible. If you are, then
What was that?
larger and more evil, potentially.
Disney denies dad's request to put Spider-Man on it. What the shit is wrong with them?
Maybe.
I remember hearing about that. That is kind of... I understand it maybe opens them up to certain things, but dude...
if that's possible. If you are, then you better loosen your tinfoil hat, buddy, because that shit's not real and you're a crazy person.
Become aware of everything. And then I want you to become aware that you are aware
What the heck?
of all of these things.
And this is the end of the video.
He's literally holding a red flag. I just want to point that out.
Thank you, Gump Club members. Thank you so much. Whoa! Just kidding! Some of the largest corporations in the United States of America are incredibly evil.
Family, religion, friendship.
I just want to point out, I don't know if I would say evil per se. They're just indifferent, which, you know, functionally kind of the same thing, but it's not like they're malevolent forces per se. They just, well, maybe they are. Maybe they're just greedy. Maybe that would qualify. Like, yeah, I don't know. I think quite often the things they do are not because they hate people in particular. It's just because, hey, it's cogs in the factory. No. Cogs in the machine.
These are the 3 demons you must slay if you wish to succeed in business.
And have
Harry.
horrible tech weapons spanning their entire existence. One of these corporations is Disney, and if you've paid any attention to the news in recent years, you would know that this corporation is, it's basically, outside of making like
Mm-hmm.
The Mandalorian and some cool shit, corporately,
That's kind of, it feels like they're kind of passing the buck a little bit.
it's very evil. It's bad. It's right. It's not a real.
Wait a second. Does Disney even own Spider-Man? I thought that was a Sony thing. I thought there was a whole thing about it. Did they own the rights to like the advertising or the emblematic type stuff? The sigils to Spider-Man?
Real thing to love anymore. It's not. I guess it never was, to be honest. But it's bad. Disney sucks.
We don't need Disney f***ing Plus, Scott. We've got cable, and that's enough.
They've been accused of a bunch of shit like racism, sexism, plagiarism, and
I kind of want to read some of these.
Enough.
they've been accused of a bunch of shit like racism.
Nice. Okay, for the love. I guess I don't know what this one is, but I just never
Sexism.
mind. Depiction of female as young and delicate, wearing gowns that be admired for their beauty and is what the boo, boo, you suck. Not Disney for depicting people this way. The people who are like, yeah, women famously hate being admired for their beauty or being saved.
Plagiarism.
Have been accused of plagiarizing existing works. The most notable and controversial example, The Lion King, which critics allege was plagiarized from Osamu Tezuka's Japanese manga. To be fair, like, manga is not well known. Like, anime type stuff is not well known, so I am gonna guess there might have been a lot of creative similes that were made with regards to, like, Western media. Probably.
And erroneous lawsuits to keep people quiet and protect their.
Erroneous. Nice. I think they were, like, I had seen they were going to make a whole bunch of horror movies with regards to this thing. What is that? Like, why? Maybe it's just some sort of, like, innate thing that we kind of, like, gives us chills or something, where, like, you have a childhood thing. I think Winnie the Pooh was maybe something where they made some sort of horror film about him. Blood and Honey, I think that's what it was called. That's kind of messed up still. Like, just leave kids things in. I guess maybe it works. I don't know.
IPs. Haha, public domain. Haha, mouse. We got the mouse. Public domain. Haha, haha. We got the mouse. Public domain. And they're allowed to keep up this behavior because they pay a lot of people a lot of money, and there's loyalists. Disney. I mean, we talk about Disney adults a lot. Those type of people.
Disney adults are horrifying, horrifying creatures. I didn't even think I was going to talk about Disney adults, right? Everybody kind of knows. It's in the ethos. It's in the galaxy. It's in the air. People, if you're over like 30 years old, I don't know. Dare I even say 25?
This feels like kind of an Arrested Development type issue. Like, I'm not saying like I don't enjoy like watching stuff from when I was a kid or like watching younger shows. Kicking It is really good. I don't really. Yeah. Now, to be fair, like I don't know. There's not a lot of things where like It feels like it can be taken to a very unhealthy extent. Put it that way.
And you are like religiously, you're like a big Disney fan, and you like going to Disney World, and that's your favorite thing ever. It's creepy. Okay.
Here's some Disney adults in government lobbyists. Look, that's Mitch McConnell. He's a Disney adult. That's crazy. I bet he loves Disney. He probably loves Spider-Man and Han Solo and yeah. Like my hand's swollen because I got stinged by a hornet on my hand. Oh, help!
I got my hand bumped the other day. There's no bruise, but it hurts. I don't think there's a bruise. It just kind of looks normal.
Help me, Walt Disney! Just kidding, he's an anti-Semite. Just kidding, it seems like he may...
What? Walt Disney has a complex figure both celebrated and condemned, but allegations that he was a rabid anti-Semite are unproven, Disney experts say. Talking to TV critics. Wasn't, Ford kind of anti-Semitic? Henry Ford? I think he had brought in a whole bunch of Muslims or something to help with some of that stuff just because he really didn't like Jews or something. Talking to TV critics on Sunday about PBS, American Experience, blah, blah, blah. It is absolutely preposterous to call him anti-Semitic, said Sherman, the son of a Jewish immigrant. He and his brother Robert, his writing partner, were treated like sons by Disney, he said. Okay, hey. To be fair, even Hitler had a Jewish doctor, so doesn't necessarily it's not nothing, but it's not everything either.
Not be an anti-Semite, I don't really know. Today we're going down the Disney rabbit hole a little bit, and specifically I wanted to make this video due to some stuff that's been in the news recently, and we'll be talking about that, shedding a bit of...
Yeah, I think I'd mentioned this at one point. There was literally a case where someone was... It was kind of in reference to a contract that with the whole bricks and minifigs, brick by brick thing, where I think there's a thing where like someone had died over allergies on Disney ground at a Disney restaurant or something like that. And because they had Disney Plus and they had signed something in Disney Plus about agreeing to a certain type of resolution to stuff like that, they kind of said that, no, you have to agree to adjudication or something like that, where like we decide how we figure it out. And I think they had been deemed like illegal, that you couldn't just stick random shit into a contract like that, like just blanket statement, everyone who owns Disney Plus. Now, if anything happens on a Disney property or something like that, where Disney is culpable, now these people have to agree to, I forgot what the actual word is, but I think it's effectively they have to agree to negotiations in a very specific way determined by Disney Plus, or by Disney. It's kind of a little bit of a sucky, underhanded way of doing business, but you know, they are a corporation, so.
Of a light on it, because it is absolutely absurd and should not be a thing. This happened very recently, and this was the reason I wanted to cover this in a video.
Yeah, that's what it was, yeah. Argument. Arbitration, that's what it was.
Because, you know, everybody knows Disney's bad, all big giant corporations are evil, etc., etc., etc. But like Disney's different because they are the gatekeepers of the stories that a lot of people grew up with. They're the gatekeepers of like a certain level of magic, a certain level of innocence and charm and things that are good that you wouldn't know are associated with something that's so bad. And I think this gives the perfect example of what Disney is as an entity as a whole. Now, it's really important to note that this part of the video was recorded mere hours before this was released. I think the point still remains true, and if people wouldn't have gotten...
It's a thing they, like, if they hadn't gotten in trouble, that's what I probably was going to say, if they hadn't gotten in trouble, really? Do you think they would have stopped? They're not exactly the soul of heart and mercy.
So mad, I don't think that they would have changed that, because their lawyers still have to withdraw the petition in court to make it not go to that still was their original defense. So it's like, I don't know. So you have to bear with us. It's outdated information. They're no longer doing this. This is very important, but this was still their stance, and it is bizarre and surreal, and the reason that I made this video.
Yeah, it's still one of those things. Like, do you think if there hadn't been an uproar, do you think if it hadn't become a thing in the news, it's kind of like, oh, I'm sorry that I got caught.
Their initial response to this being that was the reason that I was like, oh wow, maybe we should do a fucking Disney video. Whoa, these people are crazy. This is quite a rabbit hole. This is irrevocable. This is not something that I can like. It's I don't even really know how to say it. I have no words. Anyways, we'll get to the story. Disney has been under some significant scrutiny recently surrounding a death inside their park. On October 5th, 2023, a doctor at the NYU Langone Hospital in Manhattan died after eating at the
There are, unverified, but there are stories about stuff like this where they have theme parks and people die. And they ensure that the person is taken off the whatever and declared dead somewhere else. I think it's a little bit strange, but I guess that they don't want people to ever have actually died on them. Whatever. Yeah.
Road Irish pub in Disney Springs, which is a Disney World Resort shopping mall. That Thursday, Dr. Tung Swan ordered some broccoli,
Dr. Tongues? What the?
corn fritter, scallops, and onion rings. And when she made the order, she repeatedly told the staff to check to ensure the food had no nuts or milk because she had allergies. After her and her husband left the restaurant, they continued to shop, but she began to feel very ill, and eventually her symptoms escalated and she went into anaphylaxis. Her husband was able to administer an EpiPen, but she would later die at a local hospital. And there was obviously...
That's unfortunate. Because I would have thought, like... I wouldn't have guessed I would have known that there was an EpiPen involved, but you would think that having an EpiPen, it would have been fine, right? It is extremely, like, I don't know if it's a case where she just had a whole bunch of that stuff before, or...
obviously gross negligence by the wait staff there. She asked multiple times. There are accidents, obviously, but like this is just something she made very clear, and it's Disney's response to this, her death as a result of this gross negligence.
That's why I feel like it'd be really hard for people with allergies. Like, technically, I think I have some intolerances. Like, I don't handle seafood well, but I don't think I've ever, like, gone into some sort of, like, I've never gotten hives or a rash or swelling from stuff like that. So I don't think I'm actually technically allergic. I just don't handle certain things very well. But that would be annoying.
Is mind-boggling. You'd think that after such a tragic event would occur inside their own park, Disney would do anything to make the situation right, especially since Disney publicly advertises this dedication to food safety for its guests. Like, that's one of their main sort of things because it is incredibly important. But, you know, that's not true. Unsurprisingly, Disney is fighting the husband in court, and Tung Swan's husband, Jeffrey, sued the Walt Disney Company for $50,000 of damages shortly after the wrongful death of...
See, I feel like that's... I don't know. This is probably terrible because I'm just so immersed in these days, but, like, I'm expecting, like, millions of dollars worth of whatever. Like, why would you even go to court? Just pay him the money. It looks really bad, right? It kind of looks really bad that you're like, oh.
His wife. However, Disney's lawyers have recently come out and said that the case should be dismissed and resolved by individual arbitration because Jeffrey signed up for a free Disney Plus trial years ago. And you might be wondering, how the
that is
that possible? Why is that even relevant? In the terms of service for Disney Plus, it is stated that any dispute between you and us, the Disney Corporation, except for small claims, is subject to a class action waiver and must be resolved by individual binding arbitration. Arbitration court is a nightmare, and this is so evil. But of course, since he agreed to the terms and services of the platform, he also agreed to that stipulation, which Disney's lawyers argues makes the case invalid. The wrongful death of his wife.
All right, I think we already kind of know this part. Let's see where...
Disney Plus. I undid my subscription as soon as I found this. found this out. I'm not one for like boycotts and stuff, really. I don't really care that much about stuff. This is just insane. This is the worst company that exists. This is crazy. There's a lot more context,
Pretty bad.
though, that we should get into to kind of go down the Disney rabbit hole. You know, that's obviously a very new story that just happened, and things like that have happened in the past. I'll get into that. There's one story about a little boy. Crazy. It's unbelievable that this company has done all these things. We've learned a lot since.
Sorry, I'm just hearing little boy, and because it's Hollywood and Disney and stuff like that, I'm just imagining all sorts of wrong stuff. So that's where my mind went.
Researching it. But
Sign of the times, I guess.
if we're going to properly encapsulate the level of evil that Disney has done, we need to start with what made them famous in the first place. They're awesome movies. Disney has produced animation since the late 1920s, with their first project being Steamboat Willie. Ever heard of it? Public domain. Haha, there he is. There's the mouse. Look, I own him. He's mine. It's got my name on it. Look,
I don't know if the music is public domain. Don't strike me, please.
that's my signature on that. Isn't that awesome? I own it. Shut up, Frankie. It was released in 1928. It's old as. It's a terrible animation. It's innocent, very poorly made. Just kidding. They made this shit in 2000 or 1928.
Oh,
That's impressive. They weren't doing a lot in 1928, I've got to say. Really, they weren't doing much. This animation.
That's why I think I'd heard about this. I don't think I think Disney had started out making a lot of like short films before they actually started making like feature length. I'm thinking Snow White was the first like feature length film that they'd made. It's kind of interesting.
Pretty
Some of the history of that stuff.
innocent. Things would go downhill quickly from here. One of Disney's first and most popular animated films, Fantasia, contained imagery of a black centaurette named Otica serving a white centaurette. If you couldn't tell what makes this bad,
No, it's very subtle.
it is how each character in the show is depicted. If you would like me to really spell it out for you. One of the very first scenes where both characters are, Otica is polishing Sunflower's hooves, and the characters' designs are very racist, based on old minstrel shows. For those of you who do not know, minstrel shows were incredibly popular attractions in the 1800s, back when people were incredibly racist. They were.
Yeah, it was like, I'm trying to think, like, I think they would, like, blackface, huge red lip type stuff. Oh, goodness. The only reason I know, well, the only type of thing I've seen like that actually was probably on Jeeves and Wooster, where they did kind of a minstrel show, which is something that, like, it feels like would be, these days in England, that type of thing would be more kind of taboo than it would maybe be in America. I feel like England's almost gone further in their regards to, like, not doing racist stuff than America has.
Were very popular. That's why.
For the record, in Jeeves and Wooster, it wasn't like, I think they just had blackface going on. I don't think they actually were, like, acting out scenes where put the white man in the pot and eat him type stuff was going on. Or, like, you know, stuff like that. I think they were playing guitars or whatever. Maybe singing songs. Lady of Spain, I believe.
Black people were often portrayed as idiotic, scary, infantile, terrible, it's horrible. Eventually, the characters from the minstrel shows would be turned into racist stereotypes after slavery was abolished and used during the Jim Crow era, which was named after a popular minstrel show character.
Under the Separate but Equal Clause, the U.S. Supreme Court legitimizes segregation and social discrimination, treating black people as second-class citizens. Known collectively as Jim Crow laws, after a racial depiction performed in blackface, these laws reinforce racial prejudice and deny rights to black people in the United States.
So yeah, I'm just laying this out because it gives us context as to, you know, where Disney's really coming from here. So yeah, back to Fantasia. Otica is depicted in an incredibly disrespectful manner. Sure, you can say, it was the times, everyone was
Yeah, I was just like I'm not saying exactly what's the most racist thing, but I'm assuming it's the lips or whatever like that.
racist. They were just doing what was cool, you know, this was cool back then. Racism, woo! Or whatever.
And to be fair, they're just basically doing what's cool now as well. I feel like if they thought for a second this type of thing would sell again, they would be on that, like, white on rice.
But it's like, all right, well, that same company exists now, And
Wait, so is white on rice some sort of ethnic slur? I think I'd heard it used in that context, but I'm not for sure. I'll look this up. Look up white on rice, offensive. According to the white on rice is not a racial idiom. It is likens closeness, stickiness, or being all over task on. Yeah. I'm wrong. I stand corrected. I thought I'd heard it used one time in that context.
yeah. And they're still kind of like up to no good. The pendulum has swung so far that they're still just evil. Fantasia came out in 1940 when Jim Crow was still very much around and prevalent.
I feel like in a lot of cases, like
in our culture,
corporations,
but Fantasia is not the only early film to.
I feel like a lot of people literally just a lot of corporations, it is they're slaves to the current thing. Again, like I said, like I don't think they're like if wanting money, I guess, is evil, then yeah, they're probably greedy at least. But it's not like like what you would think of as like really a malevolent type thing. They just kind of are spineless, and they do whatever works.
Have these racist depictions and more, starting with Dumbo, which was released in 1941. In the film, there is a murder of crows that Dumbo meets and teaches him how to appreciate his ears.
What's all the ruckus? Come on, step aside, brother.
Now, while the message is positive, the designs of the crows
He said brothers.
aren't. They designed the crows off of minstrel show characters. I saw this movie.
I guess I don't know. Like yes, could be. I don't know.
As a kid, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I have no idea. Looking back at this as an adult now, I'm like, wow, that's insane. One of them's named Jim Crow.
Okay, that's maybe a little bit on the nose. Fair enough. He did say brothers, so I don't know. Feels like they were maybe making them aggressively ethnic.
Okay. So yeah, positive message, but veiled race. Not even really veiled. The main crow's named Jim Crow. They didn't even thinly veil, and then it's just like right there. And then nobody, I guess nobody knew, or I don't really know. I didn't know as a kid. I was like, wow, that guy's name's Jim Crow. That's a cool name. That's a funny name. And then I went to school because I was no longer 5 years old. By the way,
I'm pretty sure this guy was homeschooled. How did he?
They omitted the crows in their 2019 remake of Dumbo. Good job, Disney. Very, very, very good. Very, very, very good.
Who's supposed to teach him to appreciate his ears then?
So you've got racism against black people. How about racism against Native Americans in Peter Pan, guys, which came out in 1953. In the film, the natives had deep red-colored skin, they spoke broken English, and had stereotypical headdresses and clothing. You got Aristocats, came out in 1970, had a very stereotypical depiction of an Asian cat with small eyes, chopsticks, and...
Oh, sorry. Sorry, the depiction looks a little bit funny, but that is I didn't know that was a thing where they play the piano with chopsticks.
Broken English, looking like Mickey Rooney. Mickey Rooney, by the way.
That was the one I had seen something recently over where it was literally just like they took a non-Asian guy and had like the most over-the-top stereotypical whatever the crap depiction of Asians.
Was known for his racist impression of Asian people. So yeah, these are very overtly racist and stereotypical depictions of pretty much everybody who's not a white guy, all right? And I know a lot of...
Did they get Italians? Those are kind of white, right?
People are going to be like, oh, no, don't be so soft. They're old cartoons. Who cares? Yes, I realize. But you got to practice what you preach. And Disney, once again, the pendulum has swung so far the other way. If they were just like, you know, we apologize. That's not us anymore. We're kind of like best step for it. No, they're like evil now. They're still evil. They're evil then, and now they're just evil now in a different way.
Yeah. Preach, brother.
So them. So them. Them. They can suck it.
Huh. You know, the same type of dynamic that seems to exist with regards to N-word. Maybe this is just racist, but I would tend to think of black people saying brother, not brother. Brother with a hard R. Never thought of that.
Can suck. What makes
And again, I've invented a new racial slur.
This way worse is that they have
I forgot what I think the other one I had kind of invented was with regards to Arab people. Maybe.
the same exact excuse as those people, you guys, those people out there who you know, their retort is like, you know, it's just the times, right? They had a warning label on all the movies we listed stating, this program is presented as originally created. But the warning previously said, it may contain outdated cultural depictions. But then they changed it to, these stereotypes were wrong then and are wrong now. Rather than...
Why are you still showing it then? Okay, let me read this. Last year, the streaming service added content warnings to content considered to have outdated depictions that appeared as a small text box written on the stream. The updated disclosure appears when the user clicks on the film, with the label lasting on screen for about 10 seconds. This program includes negative depictions and or mistreatment of people or cultures. These stereotypes were wrong then and are wrong now, and rather than want to acknowledge that its harmful impact and make a lot of money, I imagine.
Remove this content, we want to acknowledge its harmful impact, learn from it, and spark conversations to create a more inclusive future together. Disney is committed to creating stories with
This is the biggest amount of corporate BS I've ever seen. No. Not really, but that's hyperbolic, but this feels like it's the most corporate speak. Whatever the crap.
inspirational and aspirational themes that reflect the rich diversity of the
Togetherness.
human experience around the globe. By the way, we still want to make as much money as humanly possible. We do not care about our past transgressions. We do not give a singular... We are evil.
Yeah, to those of you who don't know this, they have a habit of conveniently shrinking and or eliminating persons of ethnic extractions on their posters in China or other countries. So it feels like they are quite duplicitous with regards to this type of stuff. Two-faced, even.
It's okay.
That's redundant.
Hey guys, because Disney even has a website now dedicated to inclusivity and improving the world. Bringing us to our next point. Animal cruelty! Not only are they cruel to human beings, which is a lot more important than animals, just saying, they're also...
I can't disagree, but it's still kind of shit. Yeah.
So cruel to animals. In 1974, Disney opened Treasure Island, which was a new attraction where guests could pay to see and walk around exotic animals and birds. And the park was a major success and was open until 1999 when it closed and all the animals were killed. Just kidding, they were moved to Disney's Animal Kingdom and then killed. Just kidding again. The island would see controversy.
To be fair, I wouldn't have put it past him.
A few years before its closure. The animals were fine. They were moved to Disney's. Well, maybe they were fine. They're exotic animals trapped in cages. Okay, that's not that cool. On January 6th, not that one, different insurrection, 1990, Disney settled a claim of animal cruelty by paying $95,000. Apparently, wild vultures were a huge problem for the island and island staff. They would repeatedly attack small birds, poop on the boardwalk.
Well, they're vultures. What do you expect?
And were extremely loud around guests. They sounded like this. Ah! Just kidding. I don't know what vultures sound like, to be honest.
That sounds like something at a Jurassic Park. If that's actually real.
You may say, well, maybe they'll get a cat or something to get the vultures out of there, or maybe some bird spray, or like, I don't know, some shit like that. No. To combat it, the Disney workers would beat the vultures to death, purposely destroy their eggs and nests, and lock them in a shed with no food or water. Things got...
Okay. Probably not good, but I can't help but think that a part of me is feeling less sorry because they're vultures and they were extremely invasive / predatory / whatever the crap. Shot at hawks and falcons, knocked eggs from the nests of egrets and ibises. Disney was trying to control wild birds, particularly vultures, on Disney Island. It's 11-acre zoological park. The birds were attacking animals, stealing their food, defecating. Yeah.
So out of hand that they even shot at random hawks and falcons. That's crazy. They faced 15 charges.
You could have a gun in an amusement park. We used to be a proper country.
Against 5 separate employees, but prosecutors let the corporation off easy as long as it agreed
Oh, maybe it was some sort of dark gun too. I don't know.
to no new
I don't think they would have had dark guns back then. At least not widely available. So it was probably literally just them shooting that stuff.
violations for at least 1 year. So anyways, yeah, very great stuff. That's awesome. And in spite of getting off the hook legally, Disney had to pay $75,000 to the Florida Game and Freshwater Fish Commission, $10,000 to the Florida Audubon Society and in Maitland, and another $10,000 to the federal government.
Mm-hmm. What's the Audubon Society? I'm thinking of like German roads.
So they got a few fines. Not even that crazy of fines. You should have fined them more. How much were they worth in 1990? Let's see. Disney net worth 1990. Phew, they made $800 million in 1990. Yeah, they can suck my dick. Also, all this stuff is crazy because, you know, they're beating animals in the 90s and there's all these insanely racist depictions. But hunters, in 1942 when Bambi came out, they made hunters out to be the bad guys in Bambi. What the?
Hypocrites.
Which I guess they are, if you think about it, in the context of Bambi. But it's like, animals can't talk, though. That's the thing, you know. Animals can't talk, and, you know, the others...
Yeah. I guess I think they can technically communicate somehow, right? A little bit. They may not have like what you would consider speech as such, but, yeah.
Stereotypes aren't true, either. Animals aren't, they can't talk. It's just a bunch of horse shit. Disney's a bunch of horse shit. I've proudly not watched Disney movies in my life. My mom used to try to get me to watch Lady and the Tramp. I think that's the one with the dogs, maybe. I remember that one. I've seen Dumbo only once or twice. My sister used to watch The Lion King all the time. I never watched it. Yeah, I just couldn't. I didn't like how they weren't real. I like to watch Marty Stauffer's Wild World.
Possum, right?
I thought that animations and cartoons when I was a kid were just like, I couldn't watch them. I don't know what's...
You know, one really good one. I don't know if I would tend to even really like Disney that much. I think I like Pixar movies better. It just feels like they were a little bit maybe... I don't know. But one of them that I really like, I think was one that's kind of in the later end of kind of the early phase. It still has kind of the old vibe to it. So it's not like modern, but Emperor's New Groove. Really good movie. It's kind of like a little bit fourth wall breaky. Again, I think it came near like the end of the classical like Disney type stuff. So it was maybe kind of making fun of some of that stuff where it's like, yeah, whatever, but it's really good. I think it actually might be like a little bit allegorical because there's a story about Nebuchadnezzar in the Bible where whatever, but you know, gets turned into a cow and has to eat grass for a while. But it's a little bit reminiscent of that. Really good movie though. Really good movie.
I know what's wrong with me. Never mind. I know what's wrong with me. Yeah. Pretty funny though.
Anyways, you guys can go check out the rest of this if you like. Disney Situation is Insane by Oompaville. All right, moving on. I said we were going to look
Mack,
at
what is the problem?
the video about George Mack. And this one is the James Smith Show, Problem with Agency, George Mack, 4K. I'm assuming that's not a thing to discuss. It's just, you know, what the video is supposed to be.
George Mack, what is the problem with low agency?
It's a great question. So there's a funny...
Is he standing? It looks like he's standing to me. I'm going to guess not, but still.
way to answer that question. And then there's a unfunny way to answer that question. So, I mean, the funny way to answer it is just to kind of flip the question around, which is, what is the problem with low agency? And low agency / high agency directly relates to two things. One, an individual's ability to identify what problem they want to solve, which I kind of call like a live mode. And then two, how they actually go about solving that problem, which is kind of solving like an alive problem, something that's living and breathing. So your question kind of directly links to the answer, which is quite a funny thing. But the more unfunny one is the regrets of the dying. I think it's Bronnie Ware, the palliative care lady who spent time with hundreds of people that were kind of passing away at the final stages of life, whether that's older people or terminally ill. And if you look at the 5 regrets of the dying, loosely off the top of my head, it's I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I had the courage to live a life truer to myself. I wish I didn't work as hard. I wish I stayed in touch with my friends. What's the other one? I've forgotten the other one, actually. There's 5 of them. There's one more. But all 4 of them pretty much relate to something around low agency.
So it revolves around kind of doing things. And then we could almost allude to the point that low agency would not be doing things. Now, I want to bring us back to when I think it was your first episode with Chris, where you bought the cards. Was that the first time or the first high production episode? No hard feelings. I've been in business with Chris for 2 years, never had a high production episode. All right, we're not going to bring that up here. But you came so well prepared, and even when you had these visual cards to help people understand, I stopped the episode and I had to message you.
I might have to look at some of those sometime.
Directly and say, mate, this is incredible. The preparation that you had for that and the example you used is now how I tell people about this. So can you just explain to people the kind of metaphor that you use to help people understand who around them would potentially be high agency and who would be low agency?
Yeah, the question I ask is the high agency.
Well, I'm trying to think like what would cause people to be low agency, because I think a lot of it would maybe have to do, in my mind, with people who go through really traumatic stuff in life where they're still alive, but it's not because they did something. I think you could probably talk to psychologists, and they'd probably tell you something like this. If a person is in a scenario, a really terrible scenario, all else being equal, they're in that scenario, they get themselves out of it versus someone else saves them. Like, the difference there, I think, would be pretty profound in the after existence in that scenario, where they figure something out versus someone figured out something for them to pull them out of. Like, I feel like that would have something to do with it. Also, I feel like I feel like people just don't try stuff enough these days. Like, I tend to think creativity is like, it almost never involves doing things you know will work. It involves doing things you think might work and doing them until one of them actually does, right? It's a lot of calculated trying more so than any, like, whatever. And I tend to think that intellect, largely, without that risk-taking faculty, without that leap of faith, intellect is largely a stagnant force. You just have to do things. Like, yeah, I don't know. I think people tend to over-intellectualize stuff too much sometimes, and they want to know before they act. And it's just, like, at that point, it wouldn't be called creativity. If you knew it would work, it would no longer, it's like it would no longer, like, there has to be that leap of faith. Right? A little bit.
Question, which is, you find yourself in a third world jail cell and you can only call one person that you know. Who do you call? And what's strange about that question is everybody seems to have a person in mind when they begin to think about it. And that is the highest agency person that you know. And what's strange is, and why I think that question is particularly pertinent with a lot of people.
That was sure if they were like, oh, you have like one day left to live or something. No, you're trying to call someone to figure out how to get you out of the situation, I assume.
Is it hits at something they've not been able to necessarily describe before? That person might not be the highest IQ or book smart that they know. They might not be have the best bench press that they know, but it's a different trait, a je ne sais quoi, which that question helps encapsulate.
So I think that a lot of people, when they try and hire staff, because I've been through my own issues with hiring, and you sometimes think, okay, I want someone well-educated. Then you think, actually, no, I don't really care. Then you go, I want someone that, will understand the job in and out. And then after you've had some good hires...
I'm just saying it looks like a lot of the stuff in his background is some sort of supplement type stuff. I'm assuming he's some sort of fitness dude, just from how he looks. Wife beater. No. Why do they call it a wife beater? That's something we should look up sometime.
Bad hires, and once you start to understand what agency is, you realize you actually just want a high agency individual, someone who is always...
Well, technically, I don't know if this would actually be a wife beater. I think is it a certain type of tank top or just a tank top?
It's going to be proactive. And there's almost an issue with not understanding that agency or understanding that kind of traits that people have that I couldn't believe I'd been 35 years without being able to put my finger on it.
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at the world of professionalism, entrepreneurialism, success, how much of a factor do you think agency plays within someone's ability to get ahead of other people?
Pretty significant. I think there's a few things to unpack there. So the first thing that you mentioned there around you didn't have a word for it for like 35 years. So the other day I was talking to a friend and I was describing that concept. So ironically, I didn't have a word for not having a word for something, and the value of when you have a word for something, how valuable that is. This whole fucking like, meta game that I was playing. And he's mentioned this idea from Scott Alexander, which he calls idea handles. So one thing Chris does very well, like creating idea handles that you can then pick up. So like high agency is one of those things that me and you kind of knew. It's the je ne sais quoi.
Interesting. Technically, I think je ne sais quoi would actually probably be the word for something you don't know.
Wow, you kind of like could describe it in multiple paragraphs, but having it into 2 words, like a compressed meme, is super useful. Related to their careers, I think...
I actually thought of one the other day. I feel very... No, I shouldn't feel very clever for it. Probably someone else has come up with it. It might already be a word. But the notion of like a predicate definition, where someone says a thing, but the meaning of that thing will be determined by whether or not people like them. Their description of the meaning of that thing, what they mean by it, is determined by what other people think about what they said. If people like it, then they might have one meaning. And like I said what I meant what I said. Like I just say things the way they are, versus if people really don't like it, then they might kind of backtrack and double speak, kind of dance around waffle or whatever to say, oh no, I actually meant this other thing. Right? It's kind of I thought it was an interesting innovation. I feel very innovative.
It significantly helps. And there's different forms of agency that we can kind of describe, but particularly related to, there was this meme the other day of like different levels of people that you work with, and kind of level 1, imagine like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like level 1 is, hey, James, I just don't know what to do until you tell me to do something. And even then I won't do it. And then kind of like level 2 is like follows instructions. And then all the way up at like the final tier is, hey, James, there was this problem that I've already identified and I've solved it. I'm just keeping you in the loop on what I've done. Like that's the kind of highest tier. And in terms of helping...
I think it has to do with that notion of creativity, which most people are too afraid to be creative, which is kind of an interesting term, right? So most people would say you should be worried about making mistakes, but shouldn't you also be worried about missing out on something that's good? Shouldn't you also be worried about that? Because like most people would say missing out on something that's good is also bad. So not committing to a thing, not being willing to try a thing, is also quote unquote dangerous. That's not what we would think of as being dangerous, but it is technically dangerous. You're in danger of missing out on something. I think that is part of it. But again, I think creativity comes back to a lot of creative trying. People think of it as this magical thing that once they get the right level of knowledge, once they get the right level of maturity, then they'll be able to be creative. Like I don't think it really works that way. I think you're either just creative and you're willing to do things and try things and break a few eggs and whatever, or you're not. Like you won't get to a point where now you can be creative. You just have to try shit.
Their career, I think it's one of the most significant traits that exists.
Now, can we train people to become more or higher agency, or is it something that's kind of deep rooted into someone's persona and psychology?
So the low agency answer is no. And the high agency answer is yes. So it's kind of
trying to figure that one out. I think
kind of a little bit of a paradox within that. The low agency answer would just say people are determined by their genetics or their environment, whereas the high agency answer is that you could turn agency in on itself, and then you could actually get higher and higher agency. I think, like most things in life, both answers have a little bit of truth to them, but I lean more towards the latter, that it's definitely something that an individual can improve upon.
Would there be some motivation?
Is that my thing or his thing? I'm hoping it's his thing.
Motivational mechanisms that you would tie in towards this? Because if I was to look at my own personal journey, I've definitely over the years become higher agency. I can't put my finger on why. I can't put my finger on potentially the sole cause or purpose of it. But
no, I think that has a lot to do with it. Like as you get older, you go through a lot more stuff. I think you just learn to, I don't know, maybe just, hopefully you learn how to try things more, be yourself more. I'd like to think so anyways. Maybe you'd learn how to not be so afraid or self-conscious or whatever the crap. But like, it's one of those things where I don't know if there's really a substitute for experience. I don't know if you could literally just, okay, I'm going to send my kid to training camp and he's going to come out very high agency. I don't know if it's something you can intellectualize a lot, or maybe to some extent.
To me,
certainly they train soldiers to do certain things, so there's probably some element at least.
It must be drawn to some kind of motivation within that person's life, whether it is trying to overcome some kind of emotional trauma as a kid and not being loved and accepted and becoming some incredible social media influencer, which I think maybe a lot of people in the public eye could be in denial about. Or it could be a financial thing where you might come from nothing and want to be able to provide for your family. When it comes to looking into the reasons as to why some people would be motivated to do this, because it sounds really bad. I have so much respect for high agency individuals, but then at the same time, I can almost see it as like an acute mental illness. So why is it that we're like this?
It's a question, and I think, I mean, the first answer is, even when we discuss like low agency individuals, high agency individuals, I don't almost like that term in a way, even though maybe I'm helped propagated the term, is that you have some high agency, quote unquote high agency, and some quote unquote low agency people that in certain areas of their life they're really low agency, and then certain areas of their life they're really high agency. So for example,
like, I guess I hadn't really thought of it that way. Like, it wouldn't be necessarily something that's across the board. Just that's the thing too. I think people can be extremely courageous in certain areas, but very cowardly or unsure of themselves in other areas. Like, confidence isn't this type of. I would like to think like a person who is courageous, a person who is of that sort. Maybe there's a distinction to be drawn between fearless and courageous, but a person who is courageous, I think, would, although they are inexperienced in a certain area, they would have the ability to push forward even if they are afraid, and to learn how to be experienced, or learn how to not be afraid of whatever the crap. Like, they might not have it to start with, they might be afraid of certain things, but they have the ability to get whatever they need to get, or to become whatever they need to become, if that makes sense.
I'm sure in your years of personal training, you've met some like incredible CEOs that are extremely resourceful, proactive at solving problems. But then as soon as it gets to their weight, they have such emotional bottlenecks or ways they get in their own way. So that's my first problem with that term. And then the second thing, just to kind of flesh the needle a little bit, to go back to what I said at the start, I don't just want agency necessarily to refer to doing things. Like
Hey, look down. I was reading something.
There's a part of it which is you also have to understand
No, I don't know. It might be something else.
Why you're doing things. And I always use the example of, let's say, I call it low agency James Bond. So like, imagine, like, I think a lot of people, when they think of high agency, they think of James Bond as like the pinnacle. Hopefully Amazon don't destroy him and he's like this crazy, like, woke individual that is like really, really careful in the workplace. But people...
No, I feel like that might be the way it's going. They were saying, for what it's worth, I don't really have a dog in this fight. I'd never really got into the whole James Bond thing. I feel like I would have liked probably the older ones better, actually, like with Sean Connery or something like that. But I watched a little bit of one of Sean Connery's ones. But what was I thinking? No, they'd said they were going in a new direction with the character, which I feel like Hollywood has very much earned people's mistrust. So when they say new direction, I can't really conceptualize something good coming out of that. You know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should be conceptualizing some brilliant new whatever. But all I can think is how they're going to ruin it. They're going to ruin it. They're going to skinwalk someone else's legacy. Okay, this is something. The notion, like, I hate the fact that they're taking whatever. I'll try to explain it this way. Morgan Freeman, right? He's done a thing recently where he's tried to get the rights kind of claim to his voice so that people can't replicate it with, AI or whatever the crap, right? And I think initially I'd been the type of person who had been like, oh, come on, it's AI. People are just going to have fun with it, whatever. But it feels like the notion is I can understand what he's talking about. Like, in movies, in media, whatever, you have your voice out there, which people know, and people to some extent, there's a degree of maybe trust or respect or that is invoked by using Morgan Freeman's voice. And a person can use that to hijack people's sense of interest or trust or whatever the crap and get their message across. So I would like to think that, like, after I'm dead and gone, if I ever build something, if I ever create a legacy, I think I would prefer to burn it to the ground before letting someone else use my good name. Again, if I create something like that, to use my legacy to get their point across. There was a recent thing with the whole Odyssey, where it was kind of like, however much people might have liked the movie itself, I think my sympathies will inevitably be with people who were fans of the original. Because I've had that type of thing happen to me, where like people take an old property and they could just make something new. They could give it a different name and say, oh, based on such and such. They don't. They take the original property because they need that. They need that in with people. They need people to trust them, to be interested. They need to use that to do something they want to do. And there seems something incredibly ghoulish and macabre about putting your words into the mouth of a dead man. Right? Like skinwalking a dead man and saying, oh no, this is what this legacy was. This is what this story was always about. This is what it was all about. And if you don't think that, if you have a problem with that, you're the problem. You're the back. It's just, shit you. It's like, come on, man. Can we just agree on principle that if you can't properly adapt a dead man's work, if you can't properly do justice to the story and to the people who are fans of the original story, to do justice to their memory of it and to the original work, don't do it. Again, give it a different title and say based off of whatever, right? If you want. I would say even that, like, just make something new, but they can't and they won't, because they need that shortcut to people's trust, affection, and interest. There's a reason they don't do that. There's a reason they say, oh no, we're doing the Odyssey. We're not doing something based off the Odyssey. We're doing the Odyssey. Pieces. Anyways.
People think of like the apex example is James Bond. But let's say Bond comes home after another escapade in Russia where he's killed the guy in the casino and he's swooned all the girls and he's done everything and he's driving the Aston Martin back. And he gets home and he opens up his laptop and gets a Microsoft Word file. And he's been putting off that romance novel for 10 years. And he's afraid to publish it because what people will think because he's James Bond. In that case, well, is he high agency? Because in some regards, yes. But if he's ultimately outsourcing his sense of self to other people, he's also low agency. So it's such a nuanced one to run through.
It's interesting you say that. The second you think...
Well, again, I would think of a person who is actually high agency, a person who is a leader or something like that, a person who is brave and bold. Like, okay, yes, they might feel that initial reluctance, but a person who is truly high agency versus a person who's low agency will be capable of overcoming that, right? Like, I don't think anyone's a natural at everything, but I feel like, yeah, you should be able to learn. You should be able to try. I don't know. I think
I think about other domains in my life.
I think there is a universality to the notion or the utility of bravery. Like, you're not brave in every regard, but you can learn to become brave in whatever you're trying to do.
Where I've been two different people at the same time. Where I remember reading Mindset by Carol Dweck about,
I thought he was about to say Mein Kampf. Sorry.
The ability to have a growth and a fixed mind.
My extrapolation device in my brain was working overtime there.
And it was crazy how in business, if there was any kind of shortcoming or trip up or issue, if my Instagram got deleted tomorrow, I'd be like, right, let's create a new one. Let's go. We're going to build it up. We're going to turn this into a positive. However, if I looked into my personal relationships in my life for the first 33 years, anytime something went wrong, it's their fault. They're mental. Nothing wrong with me. All these girls are crazy. I'm getting out of here. So I had a very fixed, or like, let's just say my mindset towards business was in a good place, but I had the complete polar opposite ability when it came to personal relationships. Oh well, mate, this could be a discussion for a therapist or someone else. Probably deep rooted psychological issues, or I would even sometimes, if it was getting real heated, I'd pull the adoption card out. I'd be like, there's something here. Maybe it's to do with the facts.
Well, see, that's the thing. I like to think, however many excuses you might have for failure, like, you should never try to excuse mediocrity in yourself. Like, you can say, yes, this happened, which caused me to be such and such. And insofar as maybe you're trying to understand why you are where you are, yeah, sure, fine. But as a way of, like, it feels like it's very easy to slip from, okay, this is why it's understandable, but it's still not okay. I guess maybe that's the way to say it. Like, it's okay to maybe not be super pissed at yourself. Like, it's not inexplicable why you are where you are, but to still be willing to push yourself, I guess.
Parents gave me up as a child. I don't know. I'm playing on that. But then it made me realize, okay, you can be two things at the same time, which is such a great point about agency. Now, another thing I've always kind of been curious about when looking at the environment around me is the tendency to make a decision whether or not you want to surround yourself with high agency people or quote unquote low agency people. Because I think we can sometimes misunderstand the impact of our social circles on us. It sounds, this is a really weird analogy to kind of use, but I had some Welsh friends growing up at uni, and if I spent too much time with them, I started picking up the twang within a few weeks. So if I can pick up a Welsh/West Country accent just from spending time with friends, what kind of impact can someone's mindset, vision, energy, what time they wake up, what they're doing? You've just moved in with Chris Williamson, which I can't help but think is obviously friendship, but also strategic. And actually, I think that if I was brutally honest with you, almost every one of my best friends is a strategic relationship as much as it is a genuine relationship. So
I guess I don't know if I would say exactly that, but I do think the people you probably spend the most time with should be something that's probably pretty intentional. I think you can be friends with a lot of people, and I think you can hang out with a lot of people, but like, yeah, you probably want to choose who you spend a lot of time with. Because I think the people you spend the most time with are the people who you will become the most like. I just reiterating what I said. That's stupid, but I'm right, and it was my idea first.
Agency frequency in which we emit, we are picking people of a similar vibration, let's say, so that we are not facing any undue restrictions into getting to where we want. Would you say that's accurate?
I think loosely so. Yeah, I think I had this idea handle from a long time ago, which was treadmill friends and sofa friends. Because I was trying to describe a phenomenon.
That's a nice way of saying it.
Phenomenon that I was experiencing, which is there's certain friends of mine that I'd hang around, and again, particularly leans towards more of a British thing, which I don't want to harp on the UK thing, but where after hanging out, you kind of want to lay on a sofa to recover. Whereas there's other friends that after I hang out, I have so much excess energy.
Okay, I was kind of maybe misunderstanding what I was thinking. I was thinking like they're the people who push him to be better per se. I don't know. Maybe, I think I was kind of not getting what he was saying.
That I need to go on a treadmill
I get it now.
Just to burn it off to go to sleep that night. So like treadmill friends and sofa friends. I read a great tweet the other day of, I think from Jeremy Giffon, and he was saying like the best conversations or the best friendships are ones that are both produce like you feel energy afterwards, but also generative in terms of ideas. But for me, I think the problem, and I can already see the YouTube comments now, James, that the problem that people will maybe think is you should just hang around with the most successful person and therefore you will be more successful. And again, like everything in life, it's not as black and white as that. Like there's definitely utility of hanging around people who are further on in their careers and you learn from them. But I would also rather be around people that I kind of call in a live mode, that, you know what, they figured out what they want to do and they just want to play the saxophone 5 nights a week. I find that person in a way almost has more agency, that I want to hang around more than the miserable CEO that can't leave because he's afraid of what people think. So it's not just a pure,
like
you know what I mean? Because if you do that, like, it's a pyramid that basically the only person like everybody's trying to hang out with is Elon Musk. You know what I mean? You just kind of work all the way up the stack. And then by definition, he can't hang out with anybody because everybody's below him. There's a great tweet recently where somebody was talking about essentially, be careful. There's always going to be somebody more richer than you on social media, and it's going to make you feel bad about yourself. And like, Elon has his good tweets and his bad tweets, but that was a great one where he basically replied with like, "Oh, what about me?" Like, he's like the only guy where actually going on social media, nobody's richer than him, which I thought was quite funny.
It's interesting what you say there, because I completely agree with that sentiment where sometimes...
Now, to be fair, and I'm going to guess like autocrats or whatever of minor countries, well, I say probably major countries, Elon's a trillionaire, right? So I'm going to guess like pure money-wise, net worth, yes, technically speaking, but there are people who would probably have control over assets that are worth a lot more than what he's got going on.
Exactly what you say. It's good to hang out with friends who aren't obsessed about the same things as me, because suddenly we can just sit around and talk shit. And I think that that's one of the things that I've certainly missed in the last few years of my life, where the idea of sitting around with friends and sinking 10 beers, writing off the next day and just talking about absolute rubbish 10 years ago was the idea of a perfect dream. I could not have thought of a better Saturday afternoon. But now I'm thinking to myself, oh, well, you know, I'm kind of behind on an email marketing automation that I wanted to put out last week. So even my values have changed. But one of my neighbors goes surfing quite a lot. And when I look at surfing, which I'm not very good at, first of all, it's kind of a weird thing. If we were to look down on the floor and see ants next to a hose that was left on, and they're just going around in circles and jumping on a stream of water and going down and coming back, you go, these little ants are such idiots. But then you look out to the water, go, it's human ants that will go out and sit and wait for 5 minutes for a slight vibration in the water to come to create a certain wave, and then they'll just move along it and become
That's kind of strange.
Obsessed with it. But there's that element of kind of stillness and that element of going out, being away from my phone. As far as being productive, I think I have to say to myself,
Well, do you know, think of it like recreation has to have some functionality as well as just enjoyment, I tend to think. Like, it's not just like, oh, this is like the equivalent of a Mars bar. I don't know if I've ever had a Mars bar. The equivalent of like a Twix candy bar. Like, I think there's something more substantial there when it comes to recreation. Entertainment, maybe a little bit, but recreation in particular, I would tend to think there has to be some sort of, especially if you're doing it with other people, I think that can have an element as well.
This is going to be great for my thoracic extension and my overhead reach and my lat development. I almost have to get myself into the mode to think this is a productive thing to do. So I think you're absolutely right there with that balance between, you need to be able to move alongside some of the people that are in the same circles as you, but sometimes you need a headwind to go up against to snap you out of it so you don't become insane, which could be one of the reasons why some of Elon's tweets are so hit and miss. Now, you mentioned the UK. I don't want to get into a...
He hates Elon. I agree. Like, I feel like Elon is probably very smart in some regards, but I think in some other regards he's almost simplistic, childlike, if you will.
Slagging off contest about it. First of all, before we go into this, how is life in America away from the UK? Or shall I say, how is life
USA
in Texas? Because Texas can be seen very differently.
Is Chris Williamson in America now?
To America.
You answered the way you asked that question at the end is how I kind of try and describe it to people when they ask me the question of how's America. It's almost like an alien saying how's Earth. Like, it's so fucking big. Like, what do you, particularly coming from the UK, the immediate thing is people talk about, oh, it's only a 7-hour drive. Like, I don't know anybody growing up really that did a 7 hour, like to do a 7 hour drive in the UK, like that is so different. Whereas here, that's just part of Texas. So I could kind of answer the question of like, how's Austin? And I've then traveled around to different cities or different states within the US, but each part is so individualistic. So there's that nuance out the gate. But I would say like the immediate stuff that like probably the first thing I kind of realized on the ground is I've now got like a good mix of British friends and a good mix of American friends. And I find there's this weird part in the Venn diagram between the two. So the one thing I noticed in the UK,
that's definitely him, I think.
Common social vice is cynicism. So it's the cliche thing of, oh, he got this because he knows this person, or he didn't deserve it, or she, like...
See, that's like, I hate that approach to people who are better than you or in a better position than you. Like, even if it's somewhat true, like, if your knee-jerk response to someone being better than you is, they probably cheated. They probably didn't deserve it. Like, rather than, wow, I wonder how they get that. Or I wonder how they got that, and I wonder how I can get that. I wonder how I can get to the point where they are. I think I've said this before, but it feels like there is no person with a situation so good in life that they can't screw it up, and there's no person with a situation so bad in life that they can't make it materially better. So this notion of your knee-jerk response is, well, they probably didn't deserve it. They probably got it by some underhanded methods. There's no way I can do that unless I cheat. Like it's very black-pilling. Anyways, you guys can go check out the rest of this if you like. A Problem with Agency, George Mack, 4K, The James Smith Show. All right, moving on. The Danse Macabre. Have I ever done one on this? I feel like I've looked it up before. French pronunciation Danse Macabre, also called the Dance of Death, is an artistic genre of allegory from the late Middle Ages on the universality of death. Death and taxes, right? The Dance Macabre consists of dead or a personification of death summoning representatives from all walks of life to dance along to the grave, typically the Pope, with a Pope, Emperor, King, Child, and Laborer. It was produced as a memento mori, which I believe is just a thing of death, an artistic symbol or trope acting as a reminder of the inevitability of death. To remind people of the fragility of their lives and the vanity of earthly glory. Its origins are postulated from illustrated sermon text. The earliest recorded visual scheme, apart from 14th century Triumph of Death paintings, was a low-cost mural at the Holy Innocents Cemetery in Paris, dating from 1424 to 1425. In 1874, the French composer Camille Saint-Rene wrote Danse Macabre, a haunting symphony. Okay, I kind of want to look that up sometime. All right, a haunting symphonic poem for orchestra. It premiered on the 24th of January, 1875. Religion is an important contextual factor around the Dance of Death tradition and its effect on the population, with new eschatology concepts in the 14th century being critical of the development of the Dance of Death. Early examples of the Dance of Death's art were represented in religious contexts, such as murals on Christian church walls. These served to remind people about the inevitability of death and their urge moral reflection in order to cope with this reality. In 1998, a study on medieval religious practices, historian Francis Rapp wrote that Christians were moved by the sight of the infant Jesus playing on his mother's knee. Their hearts were touched by Pietà, the subject of Christian art depicting the Blessed Virgin Mary cradling the mortal body of Jesus after his descent from the cross. All right. Were touched by the Pietà, and patron saints reassured them by their presence. All the while, the Danse Macabre urged them not to forget the end of all earthly things. It is generally agreed upon by scholars that the Dance of Death depictions to show realistic dancing based on the quality of gestures seen in artwork and familiarity with steps found in texts. The paintings include body positions that seem to indicate movement, particular gestures, and specific orders and dynamics between the characters, while texts use relevant dance vocabulary. These elements may indicate the presence of past enacted dances, that the depictions were read for a performative function, as hypothesized by Gertzmann in his paper Perform the Dance of the Death. This view centers the incorporation of both visual and theatrical devices in these depictions to create effective artwork. Gertzmann writes that by drawing inspiration from the sphere of performance, the Dance of Death imagery, along with its text, invites the performative reading informed by specific structures of verses, concepts of movements, and the understanding of body language of the Danse Macabre protagonists. However, there is scarce evidence surrounding the physical dancing performance tradition of the Dance of Death outside of its other depictions. Was the Danse Macabre was possibly enacted at a village pageant and at course masquerades or something, dressing up as corpses in various strata of society, and may have been the origin of the costumes worn during Allotide. Halloween. Regardless of its main influences, it has been the form of visual arts such as murals, paintings, and more. The bubonic plague and its devastating effects on European population were significantly contributing factors to the inspiration and solidification of the Dance with Death tradition in the 14th century. In her thesis, The Black Death and Its Effect on 14th and 15th Century Art, Anna Louise does, and I never thought of like the profound effect like that type of plague would have on maybe even the literature or art or any of that of the time. Anna Louise des Armeux described the dance effect of death art on mentioning the Danse Macabre as she does so. Some plague art contains gruesome imagery that was directly influenced by the mortality of the plague or by medieval fascinations with the macabre and awareness of death that were augmented by the plague. Some plague art documents psychological responses to fear the plague aroused in its victims. Documents psychosocial responses to the fear that plague aroused in its victims. Other plague art is a subject that directly responds to people's reliance on religion to give them hope. The cultural impact of mass are not fleeting or temporary. Interesting. Paintings. Yeah, you guys can check out the rest of that if you like. In any case, we are going to play some Strange Brigade. And again, I think I'm going to have to unplug the camera. Alrighty, let's get a move on. The Towering Temple. I was expecting like pirates or something in this thing, but no. I wanted pirates.
Returning to the adventure once more, the Strange Brigade prepare to storm their objective.
Alright, upgrade. Small brick gem. What's that? Alright. Okay. I was pretty sure I had done something with this. I've done this, right? I'll do it again. Alrighty.
A paranormal puzzle? How peculiar.
Done it.
Nice. That'll look splendid on my mantelpiece.
I wonder if you ever actually meet the narrator. Yes, no, I did. No, I got it. I got it, yeah. I thought I had activated a crystal here, which I think ends up locking the previous section. That's a thing. Right? I'm assuming it's... Alright. When in doubt, shoot it. Don't know what I was opening, but alright. This is getting to a part of the game where I never think I ever played.
Glorious countryside all around. Another sensational sight for the Strange Brigade.
Am I not doing them quickly enough? I might have to do them faster. So, no, I think I'm missing that one there. I assume. I'm assuming that's probably for the gate downstairs. Right?
Ah, good show.
Yeah, hit it. Now, how delightful. Because who doesn't love spears?
Oh, look. Death traps. Fantastic.
Some guy, hate you.
This'll sort me out.
Take care, Brigade. Harbin's notes refer to alchemists and explosive results. It could be that a highly dangerous ambush lies ahead.
And that's the thing from the benchmark. They have a benchmark where they let you go through and test your frame rates. This, I think, is that thing there. There's something at the center. I think it's the boss fight, maybe. I think I'll be able to get out, right? That's where it came in.
Ah, delightful dodge.
Alright. Let's jack this ride.
dear, sounds like you've upset the locals here, Brigade. Watch out.
Alright, let's maybe stick around by these things. Burn, baby, burn. Oh, scheiße.
Come on in, you spooky sods. Dynamite out! Fire in the hole! I'm reloading.
What's this? An alchemical assailant. What enchanted explosives does this bounder have on hand?
Oh, how delightful. What is it we need to do? Crap. Okay, that guy must die. Or this in rather
Everything's coming up flat.
Another explosive encounter trounced. Onwards, Brigade.
Alright, well that was fun. Not. Oh, chest. Yes.
Ah, just what I need.
What wonderful weaponry lies within. Watch out, Westminster's about.
Nice.
There it is, the legendary stone church. But still a way to go, Brigade. Riveting reading. Oh, huzzah, what a treat.
Edgar Haben on dig location Libyan wilderness. That shadow must send this to London at first opportunity, lady. It's No. Lady I's psychics hopefully explained what it means. Where is the deuced thing? Oh, hold on. Get back here, you little bastard. Oh, I did get it. Nice.
That'll come in useful, I wager.
Nice bit of pocket change.
Oh, hold on.
It belongs in a museum, or in our bank accounts.
You ever watch The Whitest Kids You Know? There's a video about like a really annoying Indiana Jones character. He's like at some sort of art auction. It belongs in a museum. It's like, that is funny, anyways.
I can use these.
Oh, I forgot. I have something that effectively allows me to heal myself. And there's... Alright, again, where is that thing? There's a cat somewhere. I'm not seeing it. Not see! Sorry. Sorry. Yeah, what will we ever do if they ban the word Nazi on YouTube? You can't just go around saying N-word. People will inevitably think you mean the other thing, right? Maybe that's their plan. Playing the long con, wanting people to just say, oh, wow, that's a really nasty N-word. N-words are bad. Sorry. Come on, where is the thing? I'm hearing this. Where is the bloody cat? Alright, am I supposed to be shooting something or doing something? Yeah, there we go.
There's few problems that can't be solved by a well-aimed round or two.
Bloody hell, bridge monsters. Reloading here.
I thought I'd had a thing. Oh, there we are. Hello.
See, now a dog would have avoided that.
Yeah, they would. Yeah, they would have. I thought I had a thing that when I shoot, like, the head of a thing, there's gotta be something here, right? Are they just yanking my chain?
Nelson's
Told you.
Ghost. Are our heroes trapped forever? swivel wallop there.
That's why it's not going back down. Count.
It will take more than sinister skeletons to stop the Strange Brigade. On
Huzzah.
with the adventure.
Weapon empty. Reloading.
Yes, rich rewards for a job well done.
Yes, indeed. Assuming that locks the path
Resupply.
backwards. Or unlocks the path forwards. Right, both.
Oh, good. Downhill. Always easier.
Been simpler. I think these guys tend to have something right next to them, which is nice, convenient, even. Except for that guy. Wait a second. Cat! Where's the cat? Where's the cat? Find the cat. Kill the cat. Oh, hello. Hello, kitty, kitty. Here, puss, 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 puss.
Ha ha ha! 9 lives won't save that beast.
Yeah, see, it's healing me a little bit. If I can manage to get headshots here.
Classic.
I don't know. Okay, am I being thrown stuff at? Stuff being thrown at me? I like stuff. Shit. Where the hairy is that? Oh, there we are. Again, he had. Okay, Sarah. I think that's about it, yeah. That's fun. Wow. You're really deadly there. Okay. That was a little bit. There we go. Okay, that was unintentional, but you know, what are you gonna do? Scheiße. You done? Alright.
Aha! A puzzle. How will our heroes solve such a thing?
Okay, am I supposed to be shooting the green ones or something? What's going on here? No.
Reloading.
I assume it's meant to be. I don't even know I'm supposed to be making like manipulations here. Okay, so there's that too. I'm assuming if you do it wrong, you might get hurt. Hmm. You know, like, what am I supposed to be doing here? That's nice. Okay, so I've shot all of them. Can't punch them. Maybe these are supposed to be doing something? No. Nope. I don't know what that is. I know it's a puzzle of some sort, I just don't know how to solve it. Ew, Shiza. Ew, take that, sucker.
A pernicious puzzle? Well, I never.
Picking up some ammo.
So it's a shooting trick, I assume. Alright, let's try this again. Yeah, okay.
I'm reloading.
So there's 3 of these things. This one, I think, happens.
Splendid work.
All right. Some natures. I'm supposed to be dead by now. Did he not get harmed by fire or something? Is there more than one? That's a pretty big fire for just cinders.
There it is at last, the entrance to the stone church.
I'm hoping there'll be a checkpoint here pretty soon. There we go.
Watch out, Brigade. We believe the church might be guarded by some kind of large supernatural champion. Be on fullest alert.
Well, that was perfectly bloody clear, wasn't it?
Alright.
Could be some jolly useful information
Not
there.
as foolish as she looks. The girl is suspicious. Not as foolish as she looks, that one. I have to keep an eye on her. No killing her, though. Not yet. I have plans for her. She has plans for her. I dare say that story, quite unfortunately. No, I'm pretty sure she was the lady who we were seeing at the first part, who's ended up dead or something. Anyways, I think that's all we'll do for today. Thank you guys for watching. And you guys have a lovely weekend.